learning. You don't talk long after everyone has already said everything. And I would not dare come here this evening and try to, in any way, top what has been stated. I think that the individuals who have gone before me have really laid out so much that if we just take little bits and pieces, my God, won't our communities be whole. And so I just want to lift them all and have us give them a round of applause. Speakers, there's a lot of great speakers, but being dynamic leaders. And I think it's just so powerful. And then I just want to say that Andre and Doug are incredible. And just listening to our sister pour out about what it feels like to be a light-skinned woman in today's society, trying to also deal with your blackness at the same time. It actually is just one thing. You just happen to be black and light-skinned. It's difficult, and those are the types of conversations we have to be having. Those are the type of conversations I like to be in. I do want to say that my father is absolutely the head of his household. And what he will tell you is that what he knows about being the head of the household is that whatever my mother says is what goes. And that's his attitude. Whatever your mother says, ask your mother whatever she says, we all good. But but also my mother maintains a certain level of just love and quality affection for my father. And I think, that's something that keeps him motivated every day. When I call the house and I say, Mom, I need to speak to Dad, my mother says to me, what do you want? And I said, well, I need to talk to Dad, I want to know what you want. Because he's in there with his feet up, he's relaxing, everything is good around here, his face is not all scrunched up, and he ain't mad, and you call him here with some mess. So I want to know first what you want, then I might get him on. And then I go and call him on his cell phone, and he says, hi baby daughter, what do you need me to do? And so, we've had so much of a good time here learning. This is the type of environment that I love. And I was thinking about completion. Completion. I worked for Reverend Al Sharpton for 14 years. And one day I realized that I had completed that process. And I had been with him from the medallion and the long hair,
Big Al.
sweatsuits. I ain't gonna call him Big Al. Y'all catch me on tape, you'd be mad. But he's Big Al. And I worked for him all the way to MSNBC and invitations to the White House and all that we have seen him be able to do in the transition. Not everybody loves everybody. Everybody got, an issue with Farrakhan, an issue with Sharpton, with Jesse, with Tamika Mallory, with all of us up here. But at the end of the day, I know from being firsthand in that organization, the work that we put in. And the fact that we were Black Lives Matter before there was a Black Lives Matter, calling out police violence across the country, and certainly have prepared a place for many organizations and others to come forward. But at some point, I completed that job, and it was time for me to move on. It's very difficult to take your foot and step outside of what you know and what you've learned and where you've been for so many years. And we were protected by him. So in other words, if payroll was short, he figured out a way to make sure we got paid. If the media was coming for us, we shielded ourselves behind him. He was the one out in the forefront. When the FBI came and knocked on our doors in the middle of the night looking for documentation and all of that, we called him to ask, what should we do? And when I walked away from my role as executive director, the youngest ever executive director of the National Action Network, and probably most civil rights organizations, when I walked away, I decided to take on all of that pressure on my own. And that's powerful thing that I didn't even necessarily recognize. I didn't even know how much I had been protected and shielded in the work until it was me standing there by myself trying to figure out what was the next step and how could I continue to be a good service within my community and across the world. And there was a lot of things that I did afterwards, finding myself in the movement. Now, being a person who was in an organization for 14 years, you would think that it just snapped into my head and I just went and did it. But actually, I suffered with depression. I was uncertain. I was not very courageous in moments. And I was a black woman, a small black woman. I resonate with the idea that when people looked at me, I looked so young, and would you know that I have a 20-year-old son I'll tell you all the story about that, but you know, my son is 20, and you talk about being a man, he needs more attention today at 20 than he did when he was 2. And you think that it's the other way around, but certainly it's not. You actually have to be present for a 20-year-old and an older young person. And so I had a lot of moments of feeling like I wasn't sure. And should I have walked away from the job? Should I have stayed there and continued to serve another individual rather than to figure out my own path? And one day, what always happens to us, I don't know about other black women in this space, but as has been said, we figure out how to make nothing something. And I continue to figure it out and push forward. Because this work is not as easy as people think. They see it, and they see you doing it, and I try to look cute while I'm doing it. That's a big part of my whole storyline, is that I'm going to be slayed when I come in the door. And then we figure out the rest from there. My grandmother used to say, no matter how bad it is, get up, put some makeup on, pucker your lips, dress nicely, and hit the street, and it'll all work out from there. So I always try to approach life from that perspective, that I don't have to look like what I'm going through.
That's right.
You know, and so people see that and they think they can just do it.
That's
why there's such a burnout in the movement.
That's right.
And so many trades that are walking away, afraid to keep riding because they've not been fortified in the work. They have not had to struggle and come up through the rough circumstances of this work. And so they do popcorn strategy. And the popcorn strategy is, there was a shooting and now I'm the leader because I happen to be the first person to make it to the corner. I took a social media video, it got 1 million views, and now I'm in charge of the streets. And then what happens is, how do you pay for the expenses necessary to keep a movement going? Where's your infrastructure? How can people call you on the telephone? You know, what do you have to bring to the table, and what is really your knowledge of where we are and where we need to, how we can use this incident to take us a little bit further. So when you start digging into all of those things, you begin to lose people. Because it's no joke to try to be on this journey for a long time, understanding that they're going to come for you, your own people are not going to support you, you're going to be telling people to go to the left, they're going to be going to the right, sometimes you may lose your little status in the movement, and then when you think you're out there doing all these good things, they come and they plot what do you call them, the elder on TV standing with the police commissioner saying they're calling for calm. It takes a different type of person to be able to stick to the work when there's no money in the bank, when there is no real support, when people have turned their backs, when everybody is too busy to take the call, and when your vision is so big that other people are afraid of it, and so therefore they walk away from you. It's some tough stuff. It's tough nights. You know, very tough nights. And so again, I went through that, this period after I completed what I needed to do in this particular job. I completed it and it was time for me to move on. And so I've done a bunch of things in between there, but I come to this place of the Women's March. And let me just tell you that the issues that the media tried to use used to destroy me and us, the women who led the Women's March. Those issues were not the beginning of the problems that we suffered through. When we started with the Women's March, it was hell on wheels. And folks have tried continuously to tear us down. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me what it was about me that they were just so interested in. Like, that they kept writing, and one day there were 400 articles online about me. I was telling my sister earlier that we tried to control every narrative, every story. We wanted to get in touch with the reporter. We wanted to make sure that the record was corrected. We were doing so much, and we were running ourselves crazy trying to control something that we could not control. And the reason why we can't control it is because when you and us as a people, and I hope this is one of the things that we take away from here, when we don't control our own press, it is very difficult to tell our story.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And so we had a media force that was working against us that we could not go up against, because where is our media? Where is our media? Where is our stories being told? And so we decided that rather than sitting around trying to control the narrative, we needed to continue to do the work. Now, that is our choice. Because when you're waking up every day in the eye of a storm, in the eye of a storm, it's hard to see the work. But we were able to go from the largest mass mobilization in the country's history, in the world history actually, of 5 million people marching at the same time on the same day across this world. We did that in January of 2017, and we turned around just months later and held the first convention, women's convention, in 40 years. People told us there's no way that you can do it. No way. You talk about Bernie Sanders. A few nights before our conference started. Now, let me just go back and give you some optics, and I'm going to be short here, but I'm going to give you some optics. We invited and did not announce the conference until Maxine was confirmed. We named the conference after her mantra, which was, I can't even remember. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. We named the conference Reclaiming My Time. Essence Magazine was the only entity that put it out. The rest of the world act like they didn't know anything about it. We were so excited to do this conference, and in her honor. She decided that she could only come on Saturday, which was the day when we would have most of our delegates in town. All the other people that we invited, from Kamala Harris to Senator Booker, you name the names of everyone that we invited, they were unavailable for one reason or the other. Bernie Sanders confirms, and he confirmed for Friday night, which was the day before Maxine Waters was going to speak. The media tried to destroy us. Organizations walked away from us. Friends of ours went on in the press and spoke about how disrespectful it was that we were going to start our conference with a man. That every time we have pressed forward in any particular situation, they come up with some storyline that makes it difficult for you to be able to do your job, to do your work, to do what you're trying to do. And so that was the big thing. And it was so big that people on our team went to the hospital with ulcers and were really sick because of the weight and the pressure that was coming at us, and the fact that organizations who had signed on to stand with us turned their backs and said they would not work with us because we decided to have a man. Now, mind you, I just told y'all we announced the conference that Maxine Waters was going to be there. We named it after her, but the value of a black woman coming on the day in which she decided, because she should have agency over her own life, was not taken seriously But when Bernie confirmed, there was an opportunity for them to try to tear us down.
That's right.
Now, to some people sitting here, this might not be important. It's like, whatever, no big deal. Until there's 526 articles on the internet running about how we are too immature and we don't know politics well enough. And we love Bernie so much that we're willing to put him before women. I mean, the things that they said about us and the way that they tried to create, what is my brother Mark Thompson said, they infantilized us like we were kids. That because we look young or because of whatever, we had to be corrupt and doing all these things. And I'm going to tell you something that has been stated here today, the worst feeling that you can have when you're supposed to be working with allies and you turn around and the white women who claimed that they were going to be with you and they were so progressive are the main ones that are now tearing you down and trying to take everything that we worked so hard to put together. We had that conference. That conference was one of the best conferences or conventions that has happened in this country's history. In fact, on one day, we had a session that was called Confronting White Womanhood, from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin. We had a session. The room was packed. And we thought, okay, we got some people in here. It was a good discussion. There was a demand for us to open that particular session in a larger room the next day, and we had people lined up, laying all over the ground to have these conversations. And one of my black elder sisters came to me and said, I've never been in a space when I can look a white woman in her eyes and tell her the truth about how I feel without believing that I would be killed. Those are the types of spaces that we were able to create. And nobody understood gun violence because before the school shooting situation really got to be big, when we were talking about gun violence in the black community, the people, again, the allies that we had, they asked us, why do you all want to talk about gun violence? What does that have to do with women's issues? We should not bring that up. You're being divisive. Let's not talk about that now. We went through that, another piece of hell. Women dropping out, people stopping their donations to the Women's March. But you know what? We pressed forward. And we walked from the Department of Justice, this is before March for Our Lives, before all of that, we walked from the Department of Justice, from the NRA building in Virginia, all the way to the Department of Justice in DC, calling the name of Philando Castile. The question that we had was, how is it that this brother had a license to carry? He was killed, the NRA is not supporting him, and the Department of Justice did not find reason to bring charges against the police officer who shot him. Right? That was our question. They said we were divisive. They said we were making this too much about race. But we lived to see the day that when school shootings began to really pick up, everybody wanted to be on gun violence. And everybody was marching, and 1 million people showed out to stand up against gun violence. So what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, here today, is first of all, in many of these cases, once we did the big march, as we went to other events, the crowd began to dwindle. There wasn't as many people in the room. Weren't as many people supporting us because we were taking real risk. We were bringing it true and to the forefront. What we were trying to do was transformative. What we did is has been transformative. And so some of the friends, the people we started with, when they began to see us being risk takers, when they saw that the program at the Women's March in 2017 was the most diverse program with issues that are really related to marginalized communities, because these women wanted to march about Trump. And I made it very, very, very clear that I refuse to mention Trump from my mouth on that stage. I refuse to even participate in a discussion about Donald Trump, understanding that he came from a lineage of Trumpsters.
That's right.
Who have been doing our communities in for all too long. And I told white women every day who found the movement once Donald Trump was elected that you need to actually take a seat and really understand from people of color what we have been through in this country and how Donald Trump just looks like another one of those cats that have taken our people through the mud. He's just doing what his job. And now you need to understand how you have participated in our struggle. How you have been a part of inflicting and perpetuating pain against us.
Make it plain.
And that's what we're going to talk about at this march. Every time they told us, no, you can't, we did it anyway when you talk about completion. Completion. When it was time for us to have the Women's March of 2018, we decided to go to Nevada. And people said, we want to do it in Washington, D.C. Why would you take us to Nevada? Because the vision was that we needed to go somewhere where there was going to be a strong midterm election and we had an opportunity to really break through and take some seats from some crazy folks who was out here supporting the orange man. And you know what? If you look at what we did in Nevada, we actually won a number of seats because the vision was big. But the vision was so big that people were afraid to stand with us. You know, people don't like folks that might lose.
That's right.
They want to be on the winning train all the time, so they bounce from train to train.
Yes, they do.
See, the way in which my crew operates, I'm so blessed to be a part of a group of people who we win or lose together. But we realize that even when we lose, we won because we always win. Somebody said, if you even speak out, you won. If you even open up your mouth, you won.
That's right.
And so we've been opening our mouths. And for a lot of folks, again, it doesn't feel comfortable. But over and over and over again, we have accomplished so much. And so the word for tonight is that it may not happen exactly how and when. It may feel like the pressure is on and the water gates have been open and the flood is coming in. But if you continue to step together, because it's really important that you understand that I am not standing here by myself.
That's right.
I'm standing here as a product of a family and a community that has accepted me and has allowed me to lead. Has allowed me to lead. I never get confused into thinking that because I show up a certain way or I speak a certain way or I went to a certain college, that somehow that means that I just have the right to lead folks in their own communities. No way. I go in with a humble heart, understanding that I don't know what I don't know, and that if we learn together, and if I put the people who are, I like to say, I always say, the folks at the bottom, we have to focus on the folks at the bottom. And Reverend Jesse Jackson told me a couple weeks ago, he said, I hear you saying the people at the bottom. But the people at the bottom are really the foundation of this country. And so if you start to change that concept of the people at the bottom and talk about the foundation lifting, because when we lift the foundation, we lift the entire nation. He said you got to think about it from a different perspective, because when you say the people at the bottom, folks don't get it. They don't care. It's not as important. But when you explain to people that this is the foundation you are standing on, and if this foundation crumbles, then we all crumble together. So when we tell you that we need to center black folks in every conversation, because when black people are free, everyone will be free. The entire world. Keep going. Keep going no matter what they write about you.
That's right.
No matter what they say about you. You know, you all have won something great here in terms of being able to reimagine what the policies of this community look like and make a way for people who are coming for generations and generations to come. But the next fight you go up for, it may not be that simple. It does not mean you get out the car or you jump off the ship. You have to continue to press forward and understand that the leaders who are putting themselves out there, who have really been blessed by God to lead, that it's not your job to try to figure out how you can outlead them. How you can speak louder and have a better swing. My sister, she almost has a comedy license, she's a teacher. She's all those things, and that's not what I do. It's not what I do. But it's a blessing that I can stand here in the same room, and she can say the things in a different type of way, yet we all going in the same direction. And that this work, it feels good when you win. But it has to feel even better when you're in the struggle and you're participating in something that's bigger than you, that hurts at times, that you lose people who you thought would always be there with you, and somehow when they turn around and they said you couldn't do it, you're still standing. Still standing. And God bless that with all that they have thrown at little old me, I'm still standing.